Hello everyone, this is International Master Andrew Martin talking to you live from the Chess-Based recording studio in Hamburg. It's the beginning of April 2011 and I've been here nearly a week recording 2 new DVDs for a new series, the First Steps series, which aims to give all players a basic grounding in various aspects of chess. I've found this particularly interesting because it's enabled me to get away from the realm of opening theory into something more diverse. Middle game ideas, end game ideas, the whole aspect of coaching, if you like, rather than one narrow area. But I've also recorded an update for my 2007 Alekhine DVD, and I'd like to show you one of the games I've used for that update, because it's a particularly interesting encounter involving one of my teammates back in the UK. It's a game between Stefan Machak and Alexander Baburin, and of course Baburin is one of the leading proponents of the Alekhine at Grandmaster level. He's been playing it for as long as I can remember and has fantastic results with the opening. The Alekhine is one of those openings which you either like or you hate. I often feel that the best way for white to play against the Alekhine is just to aim for sort of some solid plus equals position rather than refute the opening outright. I have found that if white tries to smash the Alekhine flat, he tends to run into trouble. Black's position has lots of resources. At club level, I think the Alekhine is perfectly good, and there are still plenty of unexplored areas, one of which we're about to see in our featured game. Now, this game comes from the English Professional League, played in 2005, so I mean it's a relatively old game by modern standards, if you like, but it's still relevant because white played 2 knight c3, and over the years this is a little bit frustrating for Alekhine proponents, mainly because white ducks any theoretical argument when he plays knight c3. Among grandmasters, it's the Danish grandmaster Johnny Hector who has been achieving tremendous results with this move, and mainly in the variation where black challenges the centre with d5. Now Hector's been advancing with e5, and however black has responded here, he's been winning lots of games. He's been particularly deadly in the centre counter variation where black goes d4. There are a couple of captures, and now Hector's favourite move in this position is queen f3. He's turned this into a deadly weapon. White gets on with development, he brings the queen out to an active square. You really don't want to get into this argument with Johnny Hector. So Baburin is very much an independent player himself. Here he plays an old Alekhine suggestion, 2e6, and this is quite an interesting way to meet 2 knight c3, and it leads to uncharted territory very early in the game. Now, if we're looking for what is objectively the best move here, my guess is that you can't go far wrong with e5. You know, if we're thinking about the best move in this position, maybe e5 is the one. But if you play e5, of course, you've got to know something about the 4 knights. You've got to know something about the Vienna, which of course this is, and all the various lines that white can play. The Vienna is an underestimated opening. And you've got to know something about the bishop's opening. So an awful lot to learn about, really, if you play the Alekhine, what will be one of the lesser played moves. I mean, I don't think that the majority of your opponents are going to play knight c3. They're going to take the opening on with e5. But when they do, okay, what about e6? Well, as I say, this was one of Alekhine's original suggestions, and the critical line is where white goes e5 and then snaps off the knight. So we get this position, which at first sight doesn't look that great for black, but as we'll see, various grandmasters have been happy to play this and have achieved good results. So in this game, Machak versus Baburin, white went d4, which, you know, that's the most natural move on the board, let's face it, but which could have been replaced by c4, and this was played in the extraordinary game Rombaldoni versus Luther, Germany 2007. It is worth looking at some of this game because it is absolutely extraordinary. Black plays d6, white takes on d6, and now Luther sacrifices the d-pawn with bishop takes d6. And after only 7 moves, black has achieved a tremendous advantage in development, and white's extra pawn is, well, useless and doubled. So it's no real surprise to me that Luther went on to win this game in only 17 moves. I cover this game in depth on the DVD, so I'm not going to repeat this now. But anyway, it's obvious to the naked eye this is a good position for black. So if we go back to the position in the game where Mačák played d4, I mean that's perfectly normal. Black hits the centre with d6. So black's not really going to be saddled with double pawns for long. He's just going to get rid of his double pawns very quickly. And Mačák plays f4. Well, again, one cannot argue with that move, but it is another pawn move. You know, you would think that white should be developing pieces in this position. We'll just take a look at a fragment of the game Goloshapov versus Varga, played in Miskolc in 2004, where white played the natural move, bishop f4. Black undoubled his pawns, and white took back with the pawn. I think white probably didn't like taking with the bishop in this position because of the natural hit knight c6, when black gains a little bit of time. But even after d takes e5, black got a very reasonable position here, taking the centre with c5. Then he brought his knight out to c6. He then played the careful h6, preparing to put the bishop on e6. White played h3, bishop e7, and now danger sign. There's a danger sign in the position for black. If black castles on the king side here, he may well run into the sacrifice bishop takes h6, and that's not really what we want on the board. Now Varga is a very strong player indeed, so naturally he wasn't going to be fooled by that. He brought his queen out to b6, then he played d4, g5, and he castled on the queen side. And black had his fair share of counterplay here. I mean, black went on to win this game in 69 moves. So going back to Mačák versus Baburin, f4, black takes on e5, and already sets a little trap. If white is foolish enough to go f takes e5, queen h4 check is very dangerous indeed. Well, in fact, it probably wins because white's got to move his king. He can't play g3 because of the standard trap, queen e4 check. So Mačák plays d takes e5, and again after 7 moves, black has a very comfortable game. So what price Alekhine's to e6? It seems, on the face of the available evidence, to be quite a good idea. The bishop on c5 is very strong, and it prevents white from castling on the king side. No such troubles for black, as he's happy to castle, in the full understanding that bishop takes h7 check is not working in this position. Baburin has it all under control. Queen h5 threatening mate, bishop f5. Mate is prevented. So white's got to find another way of building up, and thus in the game he played his queen to e2. But black is first in this game to try and take the initiative, and that's one of the things I like about this system. You know, it goes from the initiative right from the off by creating a very odd position. So black's castled, white hasn't castled. Black feels justified in trying to open up the game, and now white has a few problems here, getting his queenside pieces out. I don't think white would have wanted to have played bishop e3 here, but if he just plays bishop d2, which is obviously planning castling, I think black just takes on e5 here and goes bishop g4 with an extremely comfortable position, not to say much better position. So perhaps bishop e3 is forced, but there's no doubt about it after the exchanges in the centre followed by bishop g4. Once again, white has got to sort this problem out of his weak isolated e-pawn. I've marked it in green. Yes, that is a very big problem for white. At least white's play allowed him to castle. Black spent the next 2 moves piling up on the e-pawn. The e-pawn is bound to fall. Mačák played bishop b5, which is about the best he can do. Bishop takes f3, bishop takes c6, and now the interjection, bishop takes g2. An excellent move, winning a pawn and destroying the pawn cover around the white king. White took on g2, black took on c6, white took on f8, black recaptured, and now a rather miserable move, e6. Problem for white is that if he plays queen takes a7, black has the choice of 2 excellent moves. He can play to restore his extra pawn with queen takes e5, or he can go queen g5 check, playing for the white king. Either of these continuations is terrific for Baburin. So e6 was played in the game. Black saved his pawn after a5, and now white could find nothing better than to trade down into some queen ending, which of course Baburin was happy to go along with. The problem for white in this queen ending is, number one, he's a pawn down for nothing. That's the first thing. Number two, this pawn on e6 is going to fall. That is the problem. And thirdly, well, let's see what black's plan might be. King f8, queen f6 check, king e7, take the pawn. So king f8 was the start of the plan. White played king g2, and now black played king e8, after which white played an optically strong looking move, queen to e5. But all that move actually does is make it easier for black to exchange the queens. So black is now threatening queen g5 check, obliging white to retreat into the corner. Well, in a queen ending, you know, you do not want your king exposed, tucked away in a corner. I suppose Maček thought he had no choice. And after queen f6, again, white is obliged to retreat. Obviously, he can't take on c7 because of queen f1 checkmate, which is about as embarrassing as it gets. So he has to go queen e1, and now black completes the regrouping plan and should be winning this comfortably. Now, it's my impression that the rest of the moves in this game were played out under time trouble, because I think in this position black could simply take on c2. That would make life very easy for Baburin. Instead, he prefers to go d4. Well, that move has the merit of protecting the a5 pawn. White goes a4. There's another couple of checks, presumably gaining time on the clock. And now g5. Yeah, he's delaying the capture on e6 for as long as possible to try and confuse white. b4 was played by Maček, and now another slightly odd move, queen takes e6, but a move actually which resulted in the immediate loss of the game, because I think white probably lost on time in this position. Just going back, well, I mean, okay, we're splitting hairs here. Queen takes c2 is the simplest, and then if b takes a5, white just can't cope with the advance of the d pawn. That would be the simplest way to win. So let's just see what would happen here. Queen takes e6 if the game was played out. White takes on e6 and takes on a5. And now black wins this endgame comfortably by king d7. Just to show you how it all might pan out. Both sides bring their king up. I don't think either side can deviate from this. There are some captures, further captures, and now the winning move is g4. I think that the white king cannot stop the pawns after king takes c7, h5, king d6, h4, king e5, g3. Black wins. So after g4, if king d5, black just goes king b4. And that's the end of the game. The conclusion I draw from this game is that, going back to knight c3, on the rare occasion the Alekhine practitioner is going to meet this move, he could quite easily consider playing e6. You don't have to play d5. Of course, e5 is very respectable. You can go back into a perk, if you like, with d6. Whatever you like. But Alekhine's suggestion still holds water today, in April 2011.